What is going on, FA Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Sean Mitchell. And when there's a big-time NBA trade and an NBA slate, the best of both worlds, whether it's season-long or DFS, Sean, we got to cover it on FantasyAlarm.com. The blockbuster trade that we thought we were going to get even probably a month and a half, 2 months ago, finally happened. James Harden, the newest super team, man, has been formed, and it is in Brooklyn. James Harden, Kevin Durant, maybe Kyrie Irving. We'll see. But, Sean, you saw that. What were your thoughts on James Harden finally getting traded to Brooklyn like he wanted?
Well, I mean, it goes all the way back into the offseason. I mean, this is not like new news. I mean, he wanted to go to Brooklyn. I mean, it was public. He mentioned that was one of his top landing spots. He wanted to go back there. Not sure if he just wanted to be, reunited with Kevin Durant, the old OKC days. All they need now is Russell Westbrook, maybe throw in a Serge Ibaka, and we have the whole band back together. The whole deal with the Kyrie news, don't really know how that's going to go. Harden could come in and have an immediate impact right here. No telling how long, Kyrie Irving is going to be away from the team with all the protocol issues, breaking protocol. If he gets, whatever is going to happen. Either way. It's a great pickup for Brooklyn. Get James Harden happy, put him where he wants to be. The Rockets got a plethora of players out of that deal as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Sean. Let's talk about who the other teams got. It was a 4-team trade. The Nets ended up with Harden, like we just said. The Rockets end up with Victor Oladipo, 4 first-round picks. Pick swaps. I'm seeing all over Twitter, second-round picks are getting involved in this trade as we're finding out more and more news on the spot. Dante Exum is going to Houston. Rodions Kurucs is going from Brooklyn to Houston. And then the Cavs, they're getting Jarrett Allen, a head-scratcher. We'll talk about that. Taurean Prince as well from Brooklyn. The Pacers getting Caris LeVert. Let that sink in for a second. That's what we call a blockbuster trade, Sean.
Yeah, I really like that move there for the Pacers. They're getting LeVert. They're getting him for a couple of years, too. So, I mean, they're kind of locking down a young player that has a lot of potential. He's very good. He's going to slide right into that two-guard spot, right beside Malcolm Brogdon, kind of like you mentioned, on your video that you posted for the reaction of the whole trade. It's a good spot. Indiana's a dang good team. They're going to be really, really good now. They were already really, really, really good. But, kind of like we talked about before we hopped on here, it was a really good thing for LeVert. Oladipo didn't want to be in Indiana either. He was kind of,
right. He wanted a max contract. That was big. And you're like, Vic, you got jokes, buddy. You really got jokes. You with your damaged knee that's being held together by whatever inside your skin. You want a max. That's comedy right there, Sean, at best.
Exactly. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I like the landing spot there for Oladipo. He's going to get plenty of run in a high-speed offense right beside, John Wall. Could let him thrive a little bit. I mean, that's kind of, what he likes to get up and do, and that's not really what the Pacers do. They're not really a fast team. They're more of a set-up half-court, play the big men with Sabonis and Turner down there. I mean, it's a good spot. I think Oladipo is going to play really well. I think he will be fantasy relevant here again. I think, running alongside John Wall, Christian Wood, Eric Gordon gets a little bit of a bump there as well. A lot of good things there. They've got Sterling Brown coming off the bench, Ben McLemore. So, the Rockets are going to be just fine. I think this is going to, obviously it's going to be hard to replace a singular player like Harden. But the simple fact is they got a lot of their draft capital back. They got those 4 first round picks, and then the 4 swaps. Those could turn into huge draft capital for the Rockets. And now they're not really locking down anybody long term at the moment. I mean, they've got a lot. They're going to be able to do a lot of things. So
right, and they're sitting there, by the way, with Christian Wood, which was a huge acquisition for them. Exactly. So they finally solidified their front court. DeMarcus Cousins being there as well. Now, what does the future hold for them? They need a midcourt now. They need wings. They need guys, because Houston's biggest problem for as long as almost I can remember now, for at least the last 10 years, defense. They don't play defense. They need 3-and-D wings. That's what they need. Somehow, some way, they package a few of those picks down the road into a rising star.
Yep.
And then maybe they get someone in the draft that is an amazing 3-and-D guy. then that is how you build right there. And the Rockets are doing it. And here's the thing with Harden, too. John Wall reminds me of Harden so much. I mean, he, Westbrook, Harden, they're all the same. They're just scoring machines. So they've got the scoring. And trust me, Oladipo will shoot enough. Oh, yeah. So they're good on that front as well. While they're losing the Harden shooting a zillion shots per game, they're still getting, like you said, some of those shots back. Let's talk about the Cavs side of it, because this is going to give us a lot of headaches in the DFS world, in the season-long world, because I feel so bad, especially because in the starting five that I put up the video on fantasyalarm.com earlier, I put Jared Allen as my center tonight against the Knicks. I thought it was a great spot. And now, nope, he's off the slate along with Taurean Prince and Rodion Kurucs as well, and Caris LeVert. So with all of that now, the Cavs have Andre Drummond. They've got Jared Allen. They also have the injured Kevin Love, and they have Larry Nance Jr. This logjam, bro, this is what we went through last year. It's deja vu all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of when the Pistons first started their offseason, and then they picked up like 5 or 6 centers, and you're like, what are they doing with all these guys?
Right.
That's exactly what it feels like in Cleveland. And I mean, maybe that Drummond Achilles injury might be a little bit more than we think. Maybe that was their kind of urgent, hey, we got to go out and get a guy that we know can play 35, 40 minutes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like JaVale McGee. He can do a lot in really short spurts, but that is the thing. He is not a 30-minute guy. He's not going to play 30 minutes for you every night. He's definitely not going to be able to play 25 so they needed a guy that it does make sense. If for some reason, if Andre Drummond starts to have issues, that Achilles injury, it could turn into Jared Allen being a thing there.
Here's the thing, though, Sean. Here's the thing, and I love this: getting Jared Allen, a future center. Drummond opted in, so they're not going to have to worry about him anymore. The pressure's off now, and now they've got someone who's younger, who's been averaging a double-double, who's proven that he can handle a full workload of 30 minutes, as he has a little bit more consistently as of late. Yep. And with that, the only problem I have when you're looking at the future is, don't you think that Larry Nance and Jared Allen are too similar? Or do you think that because of Larry Nance's elbow shooting ability that he's slowly improved over his career, that differentiates them enough where they won't be clogging up the same areas of the court?
No, I mean, we've seen Larry Nance play a lot of the 4. I mean, he can play the 4. I think he's not just a center to me. I think he's more of a power forward.
He's definitely developed as his career.
He's definitely got more chops. He's definitely more athletic. All the same things. You're still going to get block shots. You're still going to get steals. He can shoot the 3, which is also something that, plays into his role there as the 4 too. So no, I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I don't think they're going to cannibalize each other. I think that both of them can coexist. And in the event, like I said, I think if anybody is to basically be majorly directly impacted, it's JaVale McGee, easily.
Right, and that's okay, because who cares anyway? When you said it almost made me laugh when you said, "Oh, yeah, I love JaVale McGee." I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, seriously. That shocked it up full.
To his detriment, he has done really well this year in short amount. He's done, he just started the other game, started off on fire. I mean, had almost a double-double in the first quarter, going into the, halftime. Didn't really do much after that, but, that's kind of what we're saying, about him not being able to extend into games. He's not going to play 30 minutes. He just can't do it. He's never been that type of player. Even for the Lakers, even for the Warriors, all he did was play 18 to 16 minutes. That's just what his range is.
It is. Now let's talk about the final piece of this deal. By the way, Taurean Prince, just a guy, just another forward. That's really what he is, a reserve forward at this point. Yep. And I mean, can he hit the 3? Yes, but nothing exciting. Plays decent D, but it's definitely not as impactful as it was a year or two ago. The final leg. And as much as I love Harden, because you got to love Harden, of course, that's the chalk and everything. That's the sizzle. I love the Pacers grabbing Caris LeVert. It's not going to change his role much, But what does it do, Sean? It gets him, from a reality standpoint, out of this stupid drama tornado that's now going to be in Brooklyn, let's be honest, and it puts him on Indiana, which is very set for him. And I'm praying, man, that they let him run with the reserves a lot, because that's where LeVert will be best with this squad.
Yeah, I mean, and, just kind of forward thinking and forward looking here, that could easily be, an Eastern Conference playoff matchup right there. The Pacers and Brooklyn, which would be really interesting. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I said, he's going to slot right into the shooting guard spot where, Vic was playing. He's likely going to be the starting shooting guard, play 30-plus minutes. And, I mean, the Pacers don't run just a whole ton of rotation. They stick to a pretty tight rotation. Most of their starters play 30-plus minutes. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great fit. He plays really good defense. He's an excellent scorer. He's going to be an excellent complement to Malcolm Brogdon, who can dish the ball, do it all. Just things overall, realistically, it's a great fit for Indiana.
I mean, if you're asking me what I want in this whole situation, when Jeremy Lamb is ready to come back, which should be within a month or so, I'd say.
So injury prone too.
Yeah, I mean, but when he comes back, I'd rather Jeremy Lamb start and you bring LeVert in off the bench. Let him go with this. And he could bring up the ball too. Imagine him and Aaron Holiday. Oh my God, that would be so much fun. Be a fun little backcourt right there. So that's what's gone on. Let's talk one more from a fantasy impact standpoint. When you have a James Harden go to a team, and that's going to take a big piece of the offensive pie, my question to you is, who gets stunted? Is it Durant? Is it Kyrie Irving if we see him again? Because someone's going to start to lose out, because Brooklyn's still going to have to rely on their reserves. Even someone like a Joe Harris, does he have room to essentially breathe in this offense?
I mean, don't get me wrong. We saw Harden coexist with Russell Westbrook. We've seen him be able to. I mean, he really wasn't coexisting that well with John Wall this year to start. But nonetheless, what I'm wondering, and this might be a little conspiracy theory-ish type, who knows, but or rumor mill. But what if Kyrie knew about this trade before he started sitting out for personal reasons? Let's face it, Kyrie has not always been exactly a team player. He likes the spotlight to be on him very much. So maybe he's not exactly as happy about this trade as Kevin Durant is. Who knows? Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing them two play together again. I think it's going to be great for basketball. Everybody's doing it these days. They build super teams, win championships, break it up again, and go to a different team and try to do it again. And it's the way of the world. It's the way of business. And I think it is going to be really good for basketball.
Yeah, just one question. Who's going to be stopping the offense from getting inside? That's the big question. Who's going to be stopping the opposition from getting inside on the Nets now? You thought that their interior sucked before. Now it's just DeAndre Jordan at this point. They don't have Karooks anymore. They don't have Allen. That's about it. They don't have Prince. How are they going to defend the inside?
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
It's a good question. I mean, it looks, like they might do what Houston did last year and just play a ton of small ball,
Oh, that worked out so well for them. Good luck. Yeah. And when they lose, they're going to wonder why they're losing, because they're going to get crushed inside every single game. Good luck. Kevin Durant's going to have to play center for part of the game.
I was going to say, I mean, they had PJ Tucker. I mean, don't get me wrong, Durant's a 7-footer. I mean, he could play center if he wanted to. But I do think that he probably likely will sink down on defense and play the lower amount. I mean, he's just too big of a body. He's too tall, lanky, can get to those passing lanes, get to the shot lanes. I mean, I can easily see that happening. I don't think that it's a far cry. I don't think it's far-fetched. I don't think it's something that we should be shocked to see it happen. I mean, we've seen it happen with plenty of teams. A lot of teams
going from playing 15 minutes to 30 for DeAndre Jordan, the vet that he is, that's going to be a shock to his system.
That's why I'm saying. He's not meant to be playing over 20 to 22 minutes.
But he's a fantasy asset at this point.
He can be.
You got to add him.
Not. I mean, he's going to have to play. He could potentially see 20 to 28 minutes. I mean, it could easily happen. So tonight, for sure. I mean, the Nets are only dressing 9 people. That might be a good segue into the playbook for tonight if we want to use that. But, basically, yeah, the trade was huge today. It impacted a lot of spots. And then I think a lot of good came out of it.
If you want more analysis, fantasyalarm.com, and we'll be talking about it, and I'll be talking about it on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio later tonight with Adam Ronas on Alarm After Hours, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern. You're a big basketball fan. Give us a call, 888-963-2682. Huge trade right there. Again, if you're just starting to watch us, what's up? Huge day in the NBA. Not only games being postponed, but James Harden traded to the Brooklyn Nets. The newest super team has been formed. We think Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. We'll see how that goes without a front court, essentially. Sean, you mentioned that the Nets have a certain amount of players that they're going to be dressing in their game. Oh, yeah, we have basketball still to play tonight.
So we have for tonight, yep.
So Durant's going to be playing in the back-to-back because he's very needed. Joe Harris going to be in, Bruce Brown, Landry Shamet, Jordan, like we mentioned. Jeff Green's going to be getting a lot more run. Do you see Jeff Green playing? We're going to go position by position, but while we're just talking about who's playing, Jeff Green's going to have to go 30 tonight.
I mean, he's been starting. I mean, it's not, it's not to think that he couldn't do it. I mean, we seen him play 25 to 28 minutes last year all season with the Rockets playing the small ball approach there. I mean, it's getting the band back together here, Jeff Green, Harden. Yeah, it's funny to see that it's kind of resurrecting a team that they just had and going with zero front court. It just seems to keep making more sense now that we're talking more about the Nets and who they have on their squad right now. But yeah, I mean, they don't, like you said, they're, Reggie Perry's, I think, their other backup power forward.
That's right.
Now that Prince is gone. So yeah, they have 9 bodies. They're all going to likely play a lot. Yeah, Joe Harris is really interesting. Bruce Brown's really interesting. Couple good spots. DeAndre Jordan is pretty interesting. So yeah, the Nets situation is kind of a lot like the Mavericks situation tonight. Another segue into another team that has a lot of value. They are missing a slew of guys.
Yep, I have a whole list, Sean. The Mavs are missing at this point Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleba, Dwight Powell is out. Jalen Brunson is also out as well. But Kristaps Porzingis, probable. So we'll talk about him and some of the other price points on FanDuel and DraftKings. Other injuries before we get started on the point guards here that we could talk about. Karl Anthony Towns expected to play. He's been dealing with the bothersome wrist. Anthony Davis questionable with back soreness. Like I mentioned with Porzingis listed as probable. Zion Williamson now dealing with issues with the health and safety protocol surrounding COVID. He is out for this game. Lonzo Ball out with a knee injury. Yusuf Nurkic is questionable with a quad injury. Derrick Rose, who was supposed to play, all of a sudden questionable with the knee injury now. We talked about the Mavs injuries that they have, their COVID rather. Obi Toppin probable. He was out with the calf injury. Ivica Zubac, remember that name because I've got a nice little value play later on showing big old smile on my face. He's dealing with an injury to the abdomen. He's questionable. Reggie Bullock is doubtful with a hip injury. Sean, shall we get to these point guards for this now 7-game slate with half a Brooklyn team and half a Dallas team?
Can't wait.
All right, so let's start here. Let's go over a high-priced guy. I mean, look, we talked about this. We can't really ignore it. Luka Doncic. I mean, you're paying pretty penny for him now, 7 games. Is this someone that is just too hard to ignore, or are you willing to have the stones to fade this guy?
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to be totally fading. It is a good matchup playing in Charlotte. The total is pretty fine at 221. It's a 3-point spread. Should be a close game is what they're kind of hoping for. And, as we mentioned, you rattled off 5-6 names there of guys that they're not going to have tonight. So, Luka's going to have to play basically the whole game. And B, Kristaps, I don't believe, is going to play a full load of minutes. I mean, I'm thinking maybe in the 20 to 25 range, and I might be even giving him a little bit more than I would expect. Fresh off an injury, this will be his first game. We really haven't seen any major stars like that just kind of come in and play a full 30 minutes after that first, in the first game. So, yeah, I think you really have to take Luka into consideration. We know he's still going to have that 35 to 38% usage rate. He's still a triple-double, potential on any given night, I still think you have to consider him as a top 3 play.
On the other side of that matchup, you've got Graham and Rozier starting that I'm seeing according to reports. So I got to ask you about this next guy who is actually in my starting 5. Debut in my starting 5, first time ever, LaMelo Ball. He's been very impressive. And just like his brother, and this is what I mentioned in the video, and I'll mention it again, if he's not hitting shots, he's not deterred from still playing hard because, yeah, this guy maybe was going 3 for life, but if he's grabbing 14 boards and he's helping out on the dimes front too, then that's going to still make up for it. I mean, just like Lonzo, this guy has 4 to 5 category potential, Sean.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just talked about how, thin that front court is for Dallas. I mean, to think that, to say that, 14 rebounds, he can't sustain that. In this matchup, he can. I mean, I literally think that he could give you 10 boards tonight. Like I said, they're depleted in the front court. They don't really have just a whole lot of size. They don't have a lot of depth. I think he could easily thrive in that backup role as he's been playing off the bench. He's going to be seeing a lot of Trey Burke, guys like that. So, yeah, I have reason to believe that he easily can still put up 40-plus tonight.
Yeah, and so you're putting that down officially that you think he's getting 10 boards tonight.
Absolutely.
Wow, there you go. So, again, we should look at props as well on him. If you're seeing some rebounding props on LaMelo Ball and it's sitting there at 5 or 6, let's just say 5.5 or 6.5, Sean Mitchell's taking the over on that. Yep. You get more than just DFS plays when you tune into the live stream here on fantasyalarm.com. I love LaMelo Ball from what I've seen. I was wrong about the landing spot. I thought it was going to be too much Graham and Rozier still. I thought it was going to be a complete log jam, kind of like with what we have in Cleveland now with their front court. And they've proven that it's 4 guys scoring, and that's about it, because their front court in Charlotte is just non-existent. So that's why we're going to continue to talk about it, and that's why you go after Luka in that matchup too. Other guards that we can look at from a value standpoint, now with Brooklyn having other members of their team out, how much of a look are you giving to members of the New York Knicks, especially someone like Elfrid Payton, who kind of like LaMelo and Lonzo Ball, a guy who can help out on the boards, will get you some steals, dimes, but the scoring is not always going to be there.
Yeah, and John labeled it, nail on the head, GPP. He can, he's still just very inconsistent.
Right.
We've seen the upside, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't touch him in cash, even knowing, the route that he's going to go. He's probably going to get some Chioza on him. I mean, that's, Tyler Johnson's still out for the Nets too. So it's basically Chris Chioza as a point guard. And because, LeVert's not going to be there. He was coming off the bench, but you're going to have Bruce Brown maybe, carrying the ball a little bit more. But I still like those guys as far as defensive goes. I think both of them are pretty decent on defense. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to be paying that price for Elf.
One more question for you here in regards to these point guards here. With Dallas, like you mentioned, we got to start talking about some of these value options in Dallas because I love attacking Charlotte. It's so much fun to do. And this is someone I was looking at before, but do you go after Trey Burke? Do you feel like it's good enough at the price point that he still has a chance? Because if he can find a way to take 10 shots in this game, then maybe he has a shot at going 4X with this price point, 45 and 49.
Yeah, obviously I like the price a little bit more on FanDuel. Just the simple fact that it's cheaper, but looking at more of what he does, we saw, he put in 29 actual, I think, in the last game. He's more of a scoring threat. He does shoot the 3 ball well. So, I don't mind the 5K almost on DraftKings because he's probably going to still give you those, bonus points with a 3-point. He's not really giving you a whole lot of blocks and steals. So, but at the same time, if he's going to play, I mean, he only played 21 minutes and he still put up 40 fantasy points. He did albeit go, I think 10 of 8 or 8 of 10 from the field or, 8 of 9 or something. Shot the ball really well. Basically shot the lights out. Nonetheless, he's going to play. We know he's going to play. If Kristaps is in there, does it affect him? I don't think. I was
just about to say, Sean, and right after you finished, and you brought it up, so now I'm just going to say it. Tonight is not one of those nights where we have to figure that out. He's restricted. The Mavs would be stupid to play him more than 25 minutes. All that this guy has been through when it comes to injuries in his career. That would be awful if I see this guy playing 30. I will be sitting there shaking my head. I might tweet out a video at Fensty Sports of me going like this the entire time because that's terrible. That's asinine. So tonight, to me, is not one of those nights. You want to go after Burke? You want to pay for Hardaway? Go for it. You're safe for tonight. Moving forward,
right,
that's a different story, Sean. But tonight, we have a reprieve because I cannot see this guy playing more than 25 minutes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I actually wrote up Burke as an honorable mention today in the value vault. Go ahead and give that one out there for free. Yeah, I mean, the price is fair. We saw the upside. We know he's likely going to be running a lot. And if Tim Hardaway ends up starting again, the whole second unit could once again be his, and he could probably get run with starters a little bit here and there too. Yeah, don't mind it at all.
So I've got to talk about this Portland-Sacramento game because we got to have some backcourt love in this from either side. What have you seen from CJ McCollum, the leading scorer? Yes, let me say that again. The leading scorer in front of Damian Lillard must be a new decade in 2020 and beyond here in 2021. Now at this point here, how much is too much, Sean? You spend a 9-2, you go an 8-6, or maybe on the other side, you'd rather go with someone like a Fox or even a Halliburton. Who would you rather go with if you're attacking this game from the guard standpoint?
Well, I mean, kind of alluded to that in the podcast. The soundbite we had today was De'Aaron Fox. I mean, his price is just extremely cheap on DraftKings. It's an excellent spot. Portland has not been that great against guards, which
they've sucked for years against guards. Don't let their offense fool you. Don't let the flash of either Lillard or McCollum fool you. They suck on defense. You watch them for 10 minutes, and then you watch them for another 10 minutes. Another game, I'm telling you, you watch them 2 times in 2 days. Find a back-to-back and watch this team. Watch off the ball. That's how you're going to become more knowledgeable about the league. Watch off the ball. Watch how lazy they are on defense. It'll put a sour taste in your mouth, and it'll make you want to make some money off of the opposing backcourts.
Well, yeah, and to extend a little bit more on Fox, like I said, he's 7.4K, which is one of the cheapest prices he's had. He just fresh off a 38, minute outing, put up 43 DK fantasy points. And something I found really interesting, in the home games that he's played at least 30 or more minutes, he's put up 40, 44.5, 47.3, and 43.3 DK fantasy points in those games. So, with that said, I think you're getting quite the steal here in a game that's supporting a 236.5 total and only a 3-point spread in Sacramento. So, yeah, De'Aaron Fox is likely easily a top play for me tonight. And then going to CJ McCollum, where we just talked about this. He's averaging around 47 DK fantasy points on the season right now. He's taken at least 19 or more shots in his last 5 of 6 games. He's averaging almost 2 steals per game. He just dropped 52 against the same Sacramento team, I think 2 nights ago in Sacramento. So, yeah, I mean, and, to throw in a little bit more fuel on the fire, you've got Sacramento, who's allowing the second most DraftKings fantasy points to that shooting guard spot. So,
love that. Love it very much. I love attacking the Kings, and I love attacking the Blazers. By the way, another team that I all of a sudden like attacking, and we saw this team. There are some teams, Sean, that we noticed were playing much better defense. Teams like the Pelicans and teams like the Knicks that were playing good defense the first couple of weeks, and now old habits are starting to rear their ugly heads there. And with that, we got to start attacking before the rest of the world jumps on it, which is why a gift has been given to us with this trade for DFS at 4,900. Joe freaking Harris against the Knicks. They're not as tough on defense as you think. You can still attack their guards. Harris is the guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue about that. Like I said, I mean, they have nine players. Joe Harris likely plays close to 40 minutes, I would probably assume. He's probably not going to come off the floor very often.
He's 4,900 on FanDuel. 4,900.
He's going to get ample opportunity there. No LeVert to steal away the usage here anymore. Yeah, I mean, he's easily in play for everything that you just said. The Knicks are exploitable at the backcourt. I can't, I can't argue any facts against playing Joe Harris.
Takes a lot for me to raise the roof, but that's a play I like. That's an opportunity, and that's a play I had before this trade in the starting five. You know why? Because I don't. If it's the same player keeps hitting at a good price point, I'll continue putting that player in. But if all of a sudden that player is hitting and I'm expecting ownership to go that way, now I'm going to put in the other guy. And in this matchup prior to the trade, the other guy to me was Joe Harris. So knowing that Kyrie Irving is still on Mars or wherever he's at. Let's talk about small forward, because just like we talked about, it's hard to fade Luka. Very, very hard to fade Kevin Durant. Now, the Nets can get out to a big lead, and then they can put him on the bench for a little bit. Do you worry, because this is his second leg of a back-to-back all year in over a year, do you worry that they're going to somehow limit his minutes or streamline them and he doesn't hit 30?
No, I think he gets over 30 minutes. I mean, like I said, they've got 9 bodies. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. They could sit him if they want to, but, as you mentioned, this Knicks team has actually been pretty dang good. Julius Randle playing extremely well. Mitch Robb playing good. RJ Barrett's been hit or miss. Elf's been decent. And they might be getting Obi Toppin back tonight. So, I mean, they have a pretty good squad there. It's in New York. It's at the Garden. I mean, Durant, he's probably going to want to put on a show here in the Garden. Who knows? So, with that being said, I do think he probably plays at least or over 30 minutes. He, though it was as soon as that game finished last night, there were reports coming out that Durant was going to play. He wants to play. He wants to play. Let him play. Let him play.
Yeah, I wish Russell Westbrook had that same kind of intensity and desire to play 2 nights in a row. But I digress. Let's talk about some more small forwards on this slate. Who it's somewhat of a high price, looking in that 8-7, 6K range. Who stands out to you, Sean, at that price point?
Well, I mean, I hate it and I love it that Brandon Ingram is basically the only guy on the Pelicans out of the starting 5 that's actually playing right now or playing tonight. I mean, we can literally probably stamp him for about 40% usage rate. He's probably going to take about 30 shots. But it is the Clippers. It's not a great matchup. He's going to see PG, Kawhi, Marcus Morris, who's now back. So, it's not the greatest matchup, and I probably can't pay that because I don't really think that the Pelicans can hang around in this game. I just don't see it happening. But looking down the list, Jeremy Grant has, we talked about it on the pod last night. He's played extremely well. He's played 35-plus minutes in blowouts. He's actually put up over 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games straight. Or 4, I believe. It's in Detroit. It's not like I feel like they get just extremely blown out. Hopefully they can hang around for 3 or 4 quarters, which makes me like Giannis a little bit more. But Jeremy Grant, his price is up there, man, and now he's right at that 8K range where you have to have 40 just to hit value. So it's tough in tournaments because his price is too high. But again, he's producing. Harrison Barnes. Guy's been a mall of consistency. Another guy we kind of talked about.
He's in the starting 5, baby.
Right. I mean, I alluded to that fact so much. Even in the value wall, alluded to the fact that this total is the highest on the board. It's almost 237 points. They're expecting there to be a lot of up and down in this game. They're expecting there to be a lot of shots taken, and Harrison Barnes has been playing damn good. I mean, you cannot say that. There's not a bad thing you can say about Harrison Barnes.
No, but there's a bad thing I can say about some of Portland's decision-making when it comes to their coaching. Why Rodney Hood is barely playing, and he's so much better of a perimeter defender than Carmelo Anthony, it's beyond me. Do they forget they have him? I mean, I went, before I put Harrison Barnes in the starting 5, I said, wait a minute. I mean, it's one thing if he's on Carmelo for half the game, and then he's on Hood, and if he's on Hood, I don't like that. And then I started looking at the minutes, and I was shocked. I was floored. I cannot believe that Rodney Hood can't get time on this crap defensive team. It doesn't make sense to me. And with that made me want to put Barnes in there even more. If he's going to be seeing a lot of Melo, I love it, dude. He's been rebounding. So the only time he doesn't rebound is when Adam Rodas puts him in props. So that's the thing. So hopefully that's not the case. And with that, I'm with I like Harrison Barnes very much. It's a nice price point on a very wonky slate, considering the day that we just had between this Harden 14 blockbuster trade and 3 games getting postponed.
Right. Right. I mean, and, again, like I said, I just want to get probably as much exposure to that game. Throw in Tyrese Halliburton. There's just plenty of spots in that game that you just really like. And, the game flow is great. So you want a lot of exposure to that game.
Yeah, you really do. So Sacramento, Portland, your late night hammer, that should be, and we say this, and it's probably going to be the biggest letdown of all time. That should be very plentiful in backcourt production and midcourt production for that matter as well here. Let's talk about some of the power forwards we could go after. You mentioned Giannis before. You like him. You think that the minutes will be safe with him. Now here's my question for you. Julius Randle. We saw him come back to earth. Now, going up against Durant here, that's going to be a bit of a dogfight. Is 9,100 too steep for you?
No. Randall had he probably had his worst game in probably 3 years in the last game against Charlotte. I mean, they just double teamed him every chance they had. They didn't really give him any room to shoot. He played terribly. Still almost got a triple-double somehow. So, yeah, I mean, in this spot, we know that, the Nets play with a really fast pace. They're probably going to push the ball, which in turn is good for Randall. He loves running in transition. He loves running the point guard spot. He loves being point Randall. I have no issues at all going back to the well on that one. I think that his price it's up there, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But we've seen the production that he's, given us. We've seen what he's been able to do so far this year, and he's easily a 50-point potential on any given night.
Yeah, I mean, the assists have been great. And, I mean, what he does, and I wish more power forwards did this, what he does is it's kind of like when you're driving a car and you don't just look in your rearview mirror, you look in your blind spot. You don't get the entire picture. Randall does a great job of the quick head turn. You have to be able to beat the defender. If the defender knows that you do the head turn, they're going to put their hand out and intercept the pass that's going to ensue from the cutter. Okay, Coach Fensty right here. Real talk. So when you have the ball in the post, it's a quick, as you're receiving, you can't take your eye off the ball, receive, head turn. It's like a one motion. It's almost like an L, a curve. It's a boom, boom. That's it. That's what Randall does better than most power forwards in the league, and you're seeing it result on the stat sheet. Again, this is why we watch the game, Sean. This is what you learn when you pause and you rewind and you see it over and over, different plays. That's where we can take advantage, and those that were on Randall took advantage of that point. Let's talk about other power forwards at this time. We mentioned this Charlotte-Dallas game. We going after a guy like P.J. Washington, who can play at, if you really think about it, 3 spots. You can really shift him down to the 3, but he's very much needed to help out at the 5.
Yeah, I mean, his price is kind of in that middling range where, I don't know. I mean, I'm likely maybe either paying down for, maybe somebody like a Bobby Portis who has put up 40 fantasy points in the same matchup against Detroit. If we do think that it could be a little bit of a blowout, which, I mean, looking at that spread, I think it's 10? Yeah, it's 10 right now, 226.5 on the total. It's a double-digit spread. Bobby Portis could easily see another 30-minute run. He's been absolutely smashing in that, getting in that run. Plus, some value has opened up. So P.J. Washington's probably not as far on my radar. I'd likely either probably pay up the extra couple grand and get like Julius Randle, or even go up to Giannis, or might go down to like a Bobby Portis or a Robert Covington, who's pretty cheap tonight in that game that we continue to talk about. But in the same aspect, we hadn't talked about it yet, but OKC is sitting Al Horford. So with him sitting, that's going to open up the door for Isaiah Roby again, who played a hefty 30 minutes in the last game that this happened, putting up, I think, like close to 40 fantasy points. He had a really good game. Mike Muscala, it comes into a little bit of a value punt play. So I think there's some other ways that you can go, and not exactly have to stay in that mid-tier in the power forward range.
What about Baisley or Hamidou Diallo?
Yeah, I mean, I think Diallo might get a little bit of a bump. I mean, they're going to be a little bit.
Diallo's been getting more involved slowly.
Yeah, I mean, Diallo, he's got the upside. He had a couple 40-point games back to back. He's still kind of vying for that spot with Dort in there, and he's playing well. But yeah, I mean, Basley, it could affect him a little bit. I think maybe. I mean, he could have a few more boards, have a few more looks. Al Horford gets a lot of those looks down below and gets them on the elbow, and even takes threes. And Basley can shoot all those. So yeah, I don't hate it.
Now time for the Fensty value play of the night here.
Oh, yes.
3,800. You brought him up before, Sean, for the Los Angeles Clippers. Marcus Morris, man. Ivica Zubac, he's banged up. He might not play. I'm anxiously awaiting that news and note. But even if he does play, I don't give a damn. Because, look, if you're telling me in this matchup for 3,800 that he can't go 4X with another 11-7 night in 25 minutes, fine. You're telling me he has 25 minutes? Perfect. He can play 25 minutes. In 2 of 3 games, only one in which he surpassed the 20-minute mark, which, Sean, as you know from our conversations, to me, 20 minutes is a true rotation commitment, 20 minutes per game. So with him toggling at 18 the first 2 games and still being able to score in double figures in one of them, then again in his most recent game in which he played 25 minutes and grabbing 7 boards, I think that knee is better, and I think that this is a amazing value gift that both sites gave us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's in the value vault as well. So we're both.
He should be the value vault, Sean. He should be the value vault.
We're seeing eye to eye. And I kind of mentioned that in the value vault, kind of forward speaking. But look, Nikolai Batum was basically a giveaway to the Clippers. They basically got him for nothing. He was basically a reserve player to play while Marcus Morris was getting healthy again. Marcus Morris missed the first 7 games of the season. He was their starter all last year at the power forward spot. I think it could be maybe in the next game or 2 that we likely see him transition back into a starting role. I could be wrong. They could continue to go with Batum. I mean, the guy's played really well, but they've got stock in Marcus Morris. He is the guy at the power forward spot. Now you've seen him play 25 minutes. He's getting back into that game flow, getting back into that game shape. We want the peripherals, we want the steals, we want the blocks, which will come. But yeah, at 3.8, as I mentioned in the value vault, you might as well get him in now before it goes up, because it will.
Yep, I will tell you this. You mentioned Obi Toppin before from the Knicks, and he is available to play, but I'm seeing that there have been comments made by Coach Tibbs that they may not rush to get him back in solidly in that rotation, which means to me that maybe tonight we stay away and we just see how many minutes he gets. It seems like from his comments that he's going to be restricted. So don't try to get too cute there. Marcus Morris is not getting too cute. And by the way, he could suck tonight and then come back at 4,000 the next night, and I'm going after him again.
Right
back to him, Sean. I don't care if he goes 0 for life. If he goes, let's just say 0 for 10, I'm looking at the 10 shots and I'm like, great. I'm grabbing him at 4,000 at 1% ownership. Good. I'll enjoy. I'll eat alone.
I'm fine with it. Hey, like I said, 10 shots. A guy that getting 10 shots at 3.8 to 4K. I mean, I don't, like you said, I don't care if he doesn't hit one. That you were on the right process,
Right, exactly. That's clearly, you guys can see that's the most exciting play to me of the night. I love a good value play. At the center spot, not too easy. For me, it was Jared Allen. I thought Jared Allen was the perfect smash spot now. But here's the thing. Jared Allen is quicker, tougher. He's more built. He's healthier overall from a body standpoint than DeAndre Jordan. So how much of a downgrade is that center spot now in this matchup against the Knicks with no Jared Allen and now DeAndre Jordan there with pretty much no other help besides Jeff Green?
I mean, Mitchell Robinson could play a big role here for the Knicks. I mean, he's really cheap. I think he's only like 5.6, 5.8, 6K in that range. He's had a couple of 30 plus fantasy point games here lately. I really like Mitchell Robinson. I said it on the pod last night.
He just doesn't shoot. And you guys are all getting on me about Ayton because Ayton doesn't shoot. This guy doesn't shoot. And it's and Sean, it's a similar situation because Thomas Bryant had just gotten hurt. So the Wizards were trying to figure out who best fits in that spot between Lopez and Wagner. It's kind of the same thing here, wouldn't you say?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why I alluded to more of the Mitchell Robinson side, the simple fact that DeAndre Jordan, he's a rebounding machine, but I still think Mitch Rob can grab some boards over him. I still think that he could potentially have a double-double. I still think that he could block some shots. I mean, the guy was averaging 2 or 3, averaging almost 2 steals and two blocks a game. I think almost 3 blocks a game at that. So the peripherals were there. He's excellent in that respect. But, yeah, I mean, the hype we saw for Mitchell Robinson during the summer was him shooting threes, him shooting long jumpers. We're not getting that this year. I mean, we're not getting what we saw. Not to say that he can't do it, because we saw it. We saw him shoot the lights out in practice. I get that. It's practice. Nonetheless, double-double still, I think, could easily put up 30 fantasy points. I still believe that.
Yeah, and for those wondering about the foul issues and foul trouble that he's had throughout his career, he's actually been pretty good at keeping him down the last few games. So if there's anything I could take away, I almost put him in the starting 5. I was actually deciding between the two, and I just said Allen seems a bit safer here. Maybe people won't be on him on the second night of a back-to-back, coming off a horrible game, a horrible performance against Denver. So I went that direction. But the thing with Robinson, I kept looking at those shot totals. I'm like, this guy needs to shoot more. It can't be Randall all the time. If Randall wants to get those assist numbers up, Mitch Robinson has to be cutting to the basket. That's going to be huge. And he can't be bulldozing people, drawing charges against him. He's got to be controlled. He's got to grow. Any other centers that you like? I mean, we're waiting on news regarding Yusuf Nurkic, who's still questionable. If he's out, Enes Kanter becomes a great spot there, 5'3" and 4'8". I mean, Sean, is there anybody else that you like on this slate, even from a value standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, and John, was the first one to bring this up last night. Willie Cauley-Stein for Dallas. He's likely going to start. I take that back. He'll come off the bench now because KP, I just saw the news. KP is going to start. He'll be the starting center. But we know that Willie Cauley-Stein likely plays 25 to 30 minutes, in relief. And as we mentioned, we don't expect over 25 minutes for KP. Willie Cauley-Stein is 4.1 on DraftKings. We're not expecting him to shoot threes. What we're looking for is a few points, a decent amount of rebounds, maybe a couple block shots, a steal, and he's going to give you overvalue.
Right. I mean, that's a cheap value right there. Again, 5K and 4-1. We mentioned DeAndre Jordan, 3.8, 3.4. John and Pemba did the playbook. Playbook still getting updated here. That's why we do these streams early, so you guys can take this in, let it marinate, and then get into the chat and get further help before roster lock. So he's Sean Mitchell. I'm Justin Fensterman. And again, Sean, one more question for you regarding this slate, because is it getting too fancy going a little TLC from the Nets tonight? I almost feel like these are the type of spots where you give him a few more minutes and he randomly goes off.
Well, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but they've only got 9 players.
That should be the title of this stream. They've only got 9 players.
Only got 9 players. Everybody on their team is going to have to play a pretty good amount of minutes here. So, yeah, TLC is going to be everybody on their team is in play tonight. Let me put it that way. Every single person on the Nets is in play.
I love that very much. There you go. Why is that, Sean? One more time for everyone?
Not to beat a dead horse. They've only got 9 players.
I love it very much. You can say that about a quarter of the NBA at this point. We will keep you updated. The NBA team is here for you at fantasyalarm.com. Sean even mentioned the value vault. I had the starting 5 video today. Going to be on the podcast for the Thursday slate. Follow Sean on Twitter at SMitchell17. Give me a follow at Fensty Sports, and catch Alarm After Hours on Sirius XM, Series 210XM87, Fantasy Sports Radio, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern. Me and Adam Ronas going over this crazy mess, this volcanic eruption that the NBA has given us. If you're just tuning in, James Harden traded to the Nets. Huge blockbuster deal. Go to fantasyalarm.com to get more info. No matter what happens, no matter how many obstacles, no matter how many trades there are, we'll still always dominate because there isn't any other option.